item number 14, just so that we can kind of have a smooth flow of that item. If we can move election of chair and vice chair after the appointment of commissioners to the arts to review the applications. So
things at McBride include an array of fitness and tech classes, programs, and we have.
Thank you so much. It was a. I hope we don't have to do it again, but if we do, we know how to do it. And I know that other cities looked at us as the example because we set that example. And thank you so much for that to the staff. It's incredible. I'd also like to say thank you to a person that just retired, our active aging recreation coordinator, Audrey Calder. She just did a great job with the seniors. She was extremely passionate and just did an amazing job with our seniors. She will be missed, ma'am. Enjoy your retirement and nothing but the best to you. So Julia, thank you so much, ma'am. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on, we are now at item 8 on the agenda, which is business from the floor. This is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda that are within the commission subject matters jurisdiction. Maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, please. Madam Secretary, anyone from the public with their hand raised this evening? Thank you very much.
With that, Tracy, next slide, please. Just to give you a little bearing of where we're at, again, as Melody said, this is at the end of Holly Lane, and we've got Markham Avenue that runs through it. The park does straddle Markham Lane, so there is a portion of the park on the left-hand side as well as on the right. The majority of the park is on the right-hand side. Next slide. We've got several different major things. I'm going to go through some of the existing conditions and talk a little bit about what we're doing here, and I'll show you the master plan at the end. So this area right now has some tot play, some little spring toys, a little tot swing, a large flat area, a little bit of a shade structure and some other play equipment. This will become a new flat turf play area. So this will not be a large actual regulation size field, but it will be a large enough play field that practice and scrimmage games could be used on it. This is will be down in the kind of the southeast corner of the project as we get to that slide. Next slide, Tracy. This is looking up through the park. Markham Avenue is there kind of at the top. And one of the other things we've heard, and we've heard this on other of the projects tonight, is that idea of security lighting. This park does have lighting throughout it, but residents have felt that it wasn't enough. So what we're looking at being able to do is incorporate some solar lighting and benches along the walkway. There are quite a few walks through this park, and we want to make sure that they are secure and people do feel comfortable and safe walking through those in the evenings or early morning hours. The advantage to doing the solar lighting is they're definitely much more cost effective because we don't have to run additional power lines. We don't need to run the wiring and all that. And they are really, really durable. So they will handle the graffiti, they will handle the abuse, they will handle the constant attention that they're going to get out there, but also provide that security and that safety as they need. Next slide, Tracy. As we look in this area, kind of tucked up through the trees, what we'll see is we're looking at doing a native pollinator garden area. So this will be an area that is partially seeded, partially planted with native California plants. The idea is to, one, reduce water needs for the irrigation for the turf area, but two, also bring in something similar to what was at the Alamo Park. So something that's a little more natural, something that can have a little more engagement and interactivity with it. So we are doing a pollinator garden. I should say I call it a garden. It'll be a pollinator, a native plant area that is bounded by the sidewalks. And you'll see that on the plan as we get to that, to help with maintenance, to help with making sure that it kind of stays within those bounds, but then also being able to ensure that people can get up to the interpretive signage to read that. Next slide, Tracy. As we look back this way, as kind of right on the other side of the sidewalks here, right kind of by that light pole, this is where we've got a natural play area. So as we've talked at you've seen some of the other Parks proposing this. This is a complement to the existing play structures that are out here. As you've seen with some of the other ideas, the natural play is using more natural products, the logs, the stumps, the rocks, and really it's letting the kids imagine what those are and playing on them. The nice thing is that with elements like that, they hit every age range. So even though that we will be taking out some of the hot lot stuff, the springs and some of that, we are putting back in some play equipment that is suitable for all ages, so that the natural play elements will allow everything from young kids up to older kids to be able to use and play with that. Next slide, Tracy. And in this area also to the left here, we've got an existing pad site, or an existing concrete pad with picnic tables on it. There are a couple of these throughout the site. One of the things we heard loud and clear, as Reggie pointed out, and as we've heard on some of the other parks, is shade. Residents were adamant that we need shade, we need shade, we need shade. So what we're looking at doing is not only incorporating some new picnic areas with shade structures, but also providing shade structures for the existing picnic pads and the picnic areas. So we can, again, as Commissioner Vasquez had mentioned, they are spread throughout the park. So as families and as groups start to use some of these spaces, we are making sure that we've got those spaces spread throughout the park. Next slide, Tracy. This is one area that is currently there is a basketball court. You'll see in the plan. What we're doing, expanding this. So this area will see some new landscaping. This is right on the northeast corner of the project. So new landscaping, but we're also going to be incorporating a skate park, as well as an enhanced basketball court that does have the pickleball courts on it also. So this area gets cleaned up, gets reutilized, gets revitalized back into a useful piece of the park. Next slide, Tracy. And this is the plan. The numbers that you see, so I'll go through those kind of quickly. The number 7s that you see, those are the most prevalent, the ones that pop out all over the place. Those are the new solar lights and the new benches. So you can see we are putting quite a few new benches and spreading those solar lights out. One of the things that we heard at our last public meeting was that some of the residents thought it would be beneficial to take some of those solar lights and benches and spread them across Markham Avenue so that we've got that same amenity on the other side of the street. And so we have added that. We did listen to that, and we're able to incorporate 5 benches and 5 solar lights across there. The number 9s that you see, those are the new shade structures, and over the existing, as well as we've got one tucked down by the existing playground. We've then also got a much larger one sitting out in the grass area that is next to the number 6, which is the natural play area, and to work with the existing topography and the existing trees, flattening that area out even a little bit more to make it much more up in the upper right-hand corner. The 1 and the 2 are the 2 is the skate park. The 1 is the new basketball. And I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. It's a futsal is what we're looking at. So not the pickleball, but the futsal court that's being put in there with that. So again, single court, but multiple uses. And then doing some additional tree plantings in that area to help give some additional shade on those spaces and those amenities as they get developed. That's what we've got right now. Melody, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think at this point we're probably ready to take any questions.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for the presentation. At this time, we'll open up for commissioner comments or questions. Commissioner Gutierrez.
Hi, yes, it's so exciting to see this park get some much needed love. One comment, Melody, that I think you made, and I'm just curious about, is trying to find some outside organizations to get donations. Is there a reason why we would even need to solicit additional, donations for this area?
So, Commissioner, that was a suggestion from the community members who attended. That was one of the comments on the email that we received just late this afternoon, as well as at the last community meeting, with the intent to maximize the budget for this project.
Okay, I was just wondering if funding is an issue. Have we, talked to? I know that the city council members have been allocated funds for their district. So I don't know if that's able to be tapped into if funding is an issue, or if I don't know if how Measure M funds are allocated, but if there's an area or a way to get a bigger piece of that pie for this location.
So we're actively working with Public Works to truly identify all the costs, not only for the initial project and, bringing these items and features to the park, but also, addressing ongoing maintenance funding. So we're still working on a clear number that we could provide for any of our decision makers to allocate any additional funding.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I really like the use and the volume of the solar lighting throughout this park. And I know that was one of the comments that was brought up very frequently by community members. Obviously, one of the advantages is not only is it green with solar lighting, but there's no having to trench or run wires. But I'm wondering what the long-term, what the lifespan is. How long do they last at some point? That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Shea.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm really excited to see things happening at Trowel Park. This park is in my district. I had a couple of questions. So one thing I noticed is as we were going through the slides is just the stark difference between this park and honestly most other parks in Vacaville. It's, for a park that has a lot of, natural land features, more rolling hills and things like that, it has the potential to be a really beautiful park. But I didn't see a lot of, beautification type additions because you'd mentioned in Alamo Creek, there was going to be a lot of like shrubbery and things to make it look a little nicer. But this, for lack of a better term, this, park was looking a little destitute. So I was just wondering if you had any plans or what was the plan, just to make it look nicer. I wanted to know a little bit about the pollinator garden. That sounds like a beautiful idea, but I saw that the area on the slide was a little small. So what's like the approximate size that you have planned for that pollinator garden and like any additional like park beautification elements?
So yes, you notice the main item, that pollinator garden, is kind of a point of beautification. And then in terms of the size, I'll let Keith answer that. I'm not sure. Right now it is kind of a grassy area, and it has, I don't know, I feel like it is a fairly significant size in terms of wanting to have those located in one spot where, this is where we're going to attract butterflies and different insects that are really going to breathe some life into there. And then we also have some potential mural opportunities with some of the covered picnic areas.
I apologize. I'm looking up that number on the area of the pollinator garden right now. I should know that right off the top of my head, but I apologize. I don't. Let me get to that, and I can get that back to you, Commissioner Shea, before we get done with this here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Vice Chair Vasquez.
Hi, everyone. Thank you both for the presentation tonight. As many of you know, I have been attending many of the Trower Park community meetings going back to late 2020. I did have a question, Melody, if you can remind me how much the original, budget or grant request we were requesting under Prop 68 for this park specifically?
We requested $3.5 million for this park.
3.5 million, and right now the Measure M allocation is 1.8.
That is correct.
Okay, which is almost half the difference. So I somewhat agree with Commissioner Gutierrez. If more funds are needed, can we go back to City Council for more funds to allocate Measure M funds to this park? Because I do think it is severely needed. Attending the community meetings for this park, I heard lots of community cries and outreach or requests for covered picnic areas, a splash pad, top playground, and just additional playground equipment. And I think while this does somewhat suffice it, but it feels a lot more of like a compromise, right? Like it doesn't feel like enough. I think when you look at the other parks, and when we've seen other park master plans, and when we went through our parks master plan document, we incorporated visions and goals and aspirations for equity and park equity across the town. And so I think that this is one park that still needs that. And so if staff are encouraged to do so, or if council members, are encouraged to do so, that we get that extra funding for this specific park. Because I did notice in the staff plan, so originally it was a splash pad, but now it says misting station. Is there a reason for that?
So Commissioner, it actually went from a misting pad to a combination mist splash pad, and that was it was related to the budget for this project.
Okay. Well, I bring that up, one, as a concern because I do remember last year when we were looking at the Nelson Master Plan, the commission specifically asked for, Parks and Rec Commission specifically asked for information on splash pads, like cost analysis for installation, operation and maintenance, and staff never really came back to us with that. And so I think that, with that lack of information and knowledge, I think it's challenging as a commissioner to say or recommend one way or the other for splash pads for our community. But I know that this community specifically, that was like number 2 in their requests in the initial surveys in 2020. So if we could come back to that at some point, I think that would be great information for not only the commission, but also probably city council to have. The other thing that I'd like to highlight is I did attend the March 2022 meeting, and Councilmember Silva was in attendance at that meeting, and he shared actually a lot of ideas and themes for this park, and I think that any way that we can incorporate some of that, as he's both a resident of this area and a council member that represents this area. He spoke really highly about wanting to have like a park theme or a cultural theme. When you think about some of our other parks across town, like Andrews Park, people often refer to that as the Dragon Park, but building some sort of cultural community theme for this park. If we can do that and incorporate that. And I know he did also, express concern and want for even electrical access in this park. And I know that's not something that is typically part of neighborhood parks, but I think, again, this is a different situated park, I think, within a community. So just some of my thoughts and questions and wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. And I'll just remind the commission that, this body does not determine the budget for this park. We're here to talk about the improvements for the park. So a lot of great suggestions from the commission, a lot of great ideas. And I think that that's our job on this commission, is to bring those to light and to come up with a plan and then pass that on to the council. So just a friendly reminder, please. Commissioner Oz.
Thank you, Chair. My question goes towards the playgrounds. If I recall the existing condition pictures, the tot playground was very, very minimal, and from the agenda report, it doesn't look like there's going to be. Or could you just speak to what type of additional playground amenities would be added? And then I guess a related question would just be how do you go about making the decision? Is it just a budgetary issue whether you do a tot playground or a larger, fuller size playground, and just trying to think about, since this just has a tot playground, is there a specific decision made that was necessary over a larger playground?
So I'll speak to the question about the tot versus what we call a youth playground, and that's something that we typically try to have one of each.
Because of the type of play, it gives the tots as well as the youth the opportunity to play. There's elements in it that that the 2-year-olds as well as the 12-year-olds can find interactive. So it's not specifically a tot lot or a tot play area versus a youth. It is a more inclusive. A lot of the feedback, and Melody can speak more to this, a lot of the feedback we got was, again, wanting to have that theme. And Commissioner Vasquez had pointed, or yeah, I think it was Commissioner Vasquez, sorry, from councilman feedback. And as Chairman said, ultimately, we look for your guys' guidance on making sure that we're providing the right amenities in the right parks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Commissioner Berruman.
There we go. Yes, I'd like to echo everything pretty much where my fellow commissioners are concerned about, especially Gutierrez, when we took that tour over there to that park, which is a much needed and help. And we even spoke to a little guy that came to us. I think he spoke to Chair McMahon on what he would do to the park. That was really funny. But at the same time, are there going to be benches along where the basketball courts and the skate park is, for people to sit when they're waiting their turn to play and things like that?
Yes, that's a great comment. I forgot to point that out. Under the trees, we are including benches. Okay. We don't currently have any along the skate park, but we do have some along the basketball and the pickleball courts.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further commissioner comments or questions?
And as far as the dog waste receptacles, we can certainly include those. Melody, we haven't considered that or haven't included those currently at this stage, but we will. That is a good point. So we will take that into consideration. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
That's all my questions. It looks like Commissioner Oz, sir.
Yes, thank you. Just one more quick question. I see that there was some feedback from the public that requested a consultant to help solicit volunteers to help to provide labor to bring the project costs down. I was just curious to see if that was a past practice. Have we done that before? Has it been successful?
I could not tell you if it is something that the city has done before. It's very much in a preliminary exploratory phase. That was a comment that was made at the recent March meeting. So something that staff are still looking into.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Seeing no further commissioner comments or questions, we will open it up for public comment at this time, Madam Secretary.
Yes. We got a question in the question and answer portion, I guess. It's like chat, and I apologize for not turning it off, but Regina Herrera, you had posed a question, so I'll open your mic now.
It already got answered. Thank you. That was just I had a question. Yeah, my question was just that, was there going to be benches for the soccer, while they're resting, and the skate park in the basketball courts, because I didn't see it on there.
Okay, very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Secretary, anyone else from the public, ma'am?
Yes. Call in user 1. I'll open your mic.
Thank you. Good evening, caller. Can you hear us?
Oops.
Madam Secretary, are they still muted, ma'am?
It looks like it is, their phone is open. Oh, it just closed again. So call in user 1, it looks like your phone is open to speak.
Hello, caller, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. How are you?
I am so sorry. I had you guys on mute so that just in case I messed up earlier. Okay.
That's quite all right, ma'am. You have three minutes.
Thank you, guys. So I was at the last meeting, and you guys have done exceptional work incorporating a lot of the features that we've discussed. But I did reiterate that people have asked for dog receptacles and bags. So if you put out the bags and you don't put out the trash, like they said, they throw them on the ground. Also, too, people have reiterated that there is not accessibility, like on the swings. The ones that are shorter have a hard time getting on. So you need to have for different sizes, and taking out a small park to put in just a play area that's more of a nature thing. But the bigger kids have a bigger space, and they kind of go at a different pace. So having an area dedicated to the tots that are just getting their footing could be very helpful. I was thinking about the funds, and since you guys have an issue of having slashed the budget in half, grants.gov, Park and Recreation departments at national and state and local levels frequently offer grants. Corporation and bank philanthropy is a necessary part of business for large companies, as many will offer grants to community building projects. Local businesses, large, even small ones, might have fewer competition for grants and sponsorships. Even nonprofit, us working together, disabled access swings, musical playground structures, slides down the hill. We can incorporate and have a robust park more than just what we have. I think if we work together, we can increase. Thank you very much. Have a blessed evening.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Madam Secretary, anyone else from the public, ma'am? Madam Secretary.
I apologize. I was on mute. No other hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll close public comment, and I'll bring it back to the commission for commissioner comments or follow-up questions. Vice Chair Vasquez.
Yes, I just had a follow-up question and a comment. In terms of these improvement plans, are they going back to City Council for approval? I know each one had kind of a last slide of like next steps. Sorry, there's feedback. Oh, should we mute the? Okay. Sorry. So there was, for each plan, there was a final slide that showed, next steps. And I'm sorry if I don't know off the top of my head, but did each one have a final next step to where these improvement plans go back to City Council for final approval? Like where does City Council fall into these improvement plans?
Hi, Commissioner. So, go ahead, Director Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Vasquez. So as what has been noted previously, that these plans were included in the Park and Recreation Master Plan, these improvements, as well as the Measure M budget that were both approved by City Council. So the plan is, because the vast majority of these improvements at all of these parks are a lot of them are maintenance related, so these will not be going to the City Council.
So neither the commission nor city council has final approval on these plans.
No, this is planned to be the presentation, the one and only presentation to commission, and there will be no request again for action, because again, these are primarily maintenance related improvements.
Okay, and so then a follow-up question to that, will there be updates at commission meetings on how the improvements are going or what the final plan ends up being?
Absolutely, we can. We will bring status updates to the commission. And Trauer, this is a little unique, and obviously there is a strong desire to seek out additional funding for this park. So as Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo mentioned, that we're going to invest some time and effort into that. The city does at this time, we contract with an organization called California Consulting, and their specialty, what they do is grant research and writing. So that is definitely an area that we will pursue with them and share with them and see what they can seek out and hopefully find for additional funding.
Okay, sorry. Another question just came to mind as you were talking. So should the staff seek additional grant funding for any of these projects, really? And the plan would potentially or could potentially change based on receiving an additional grant, then would these plans come back to commission and council for review? Or does the project move forward as is with Measure M funds?
Yeah, well, I think the other option is, for a dialogue and discussion amongst the council themselves, and as to whether or not, there is a desire to augment any of these budgets. But again, the projects moved.
Still allow volunteers to help because my family actually helped till the land for Nelson and drag those fields. So, but that was in the 80s. Times have changed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further commissioner comments or follow-up questions?
Account. So we waited until all our summer programs were released, and then we went back and we looked at all the accounts, and any account that had $200 or more in funds in their account that were still remaining, we went back to them and said, hey, please use this or give it back to us so we can give it to other families. And so we are in the process of that right now. We've set a tentative deadline of April 17th for those families to kind of get those funds set and to get their summer plans in order, get their children signed up for different programs or summer camps to make sure they have that much needed summer childcare, and then hopefully do the marketing, things like that. And it's a great opportunity for those who have